Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good deal. Thank you for responding. Um, this is an advertising class that we had done about 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, but since then, Trek has come out with some proposed new changes, some proposed new rules that we'll be going over as well. So the first part of this class is going to be the changes that are effective 9/1 of this year. Um, if you are wondering um, when the new rules will be effective, that depends if those rules are passed or not. They still need to be passed by Trek. They're only proposed at this time. Um, so what we're going to be going over is number one, the rules that have already been passed and will take effective 9/1, and then I'll let you know when we're getting into the material that are proposed changes. So let's go over the to our next slide and we'll just get into it. These changes came about because of a House Senate bill, SB 2212, and it removes the identifiers that we used to have, we had to have on our advertising, such as broker, broker associate, or agent on our advertising. So they have taken this out now. So those terms, those identifiers don't have to be used anymore. But what they're finding out, what they're wanting is they're going to be putting in some new restrictions. And more importantly, it clarifies that an advertisement, if it's misleading, if it fails to include the name of a broker. And we'll get into that in just a second. So, um, here's Rule 1101.652 B23, and I want to. This is very important that you understand this because you have to know what these particular rules say to understand the gravity that Trek is trying to put on some of these rules. So 1101 has to do with the suspension or the revoking of a license.
Hey, Ron,
Yeah,
you got about 10 people over in meeting rooms earlier. I just was over there.
yeah, I know. And if you can bring them back over here, that would be
Will do.
great.
I'm gone.
Okay,
Adios.
thanks. Um, so this particular rule is tied in with the new advertising rules. So if you'll look at what 23 says, the Commission may suspend or revoke a license issued under this chapter or take any other disciplinary action authorized by this chapter if the license holder, while engaged in real estate brokerages, publishes or causes to be published an advertisement, including an advertisement by a newspaper, radio, television, the internet, or display that misleads or is likely to deceive the public, tends to create a misleading impression, or fails to identify the person causing the advertisement to be published as a licensed broker or agent. Some of these new rules that are taking effect now are straight to this. They are saying that if you do something or you don't do something, your advertisement is considered misleading. Um, and Joy will be getting to questions here in just a second. Now, what I would ask is that if you have questions, verbalize them because the people that are watching this video later won't be able to see the text screen. So feel free to interrupt me. That's what the class is all about. There's no stupid questions, so just ask your questions audibly so the people on the video can get the same benefit of the class that you're getting. So let's go on to so the question becomes, if we're eliminating the necessity for identifiers such as broker, sales agent, salesperson, um, that tell the public something about the realtor, where will they get that information if they want to find out about a realtor? The, the answer that Trek wants us to give them is they need to see that on the information about brokerage services, the IABS. Now, they are now calling this, it's not the IABS form, they're in the new language, they're referring to this as the IABS notice, because they want you to notify your clients about who's who in the real estate transaction before the transaction. So, and here's the reminder on that. The purpose of delivering the IABS notice to the consumer is so they'll understand what role you play before they enter into an agency relationship. Okay, so if you haven't seen the new IABS form, this is it. And it's distinguished from the old IABS form because the new one has 4 slots: one for the brokerage, one for the broker, one for any supervising agent or broker, and then your name at the bottom. Now, in our model, EXP would be on that first line, I would be on the second line, either Sheila or Linda would be on that third line, and then you would be on the fourth line. Okay, so what is required in regards to the IABS? The Texas law requires that all agents and brokers provide a written notice regarding the IABS to any buyer, tenant, seller. If you're having a substantive communication with a client or a prospective client, you need to give them an IABS. And so what does substantive communication mean? Well, number one, it does not include conversations at an open house. It's more directed to a face-to-face meeting with a client in which you're discussing a particular property. That's what's referred to as substantive communication. So if you're having a telephone conversation discussing a particular property, that would be a substantive communication. You call somebody and say, oh, I see you're interested in 123 Main Street. You're talking about a particular property, so now that becomes a substantive communication. And you should deliver a IABS form to them as soon as possible. We're not going to be getting into how you put in an IBS into a email. It's just that's not the purpose of this class. Purpose of this class is to show you the importance and the importance that Trek is placing now on the IABS. So,
Ron, question.
go ahead.
So if my email has that IABS notice on the front, I just talked to Joe Consumer about the lot you were discussing, and I send him an email that's got it on the bottom. Is that legal? I mean, does that
The
satisfy
email
the requirement?
there's a prescribed way that IABS form is to be delivered. Having it
Yes.
at the end of your email, they say is not compliant with the rule. It has to be within the body of the communication that you're sending to them.
Thanks.
And if you'll go onto the Trek site, they have a link there that shows you how to um, It's either the Trec site or the TAR site. I may be mixing that up, but one of the two has a video there that shows you how to do that, how they want it done. So the IABS, um, this is one of the things that they're bringing out in the new rules is they want a completed IABS. If there is a blank, it is not deemed to be a completed IABS. So if you're not sure who the uh, supervisor is for your where you are, let's say you're in Houston, you know that I'm the broker, but um, you're not sure who the supervisor is. You need to find out. You either put me down as the broker and the supervisor and yourself down as the agent, but all of those blanks need to be filled out now. So here's where we get into some specifics. If you are if you have a website, and I know that most of you are provided a conversion or a sync website with EXP, even if you deliver a required IABS form to the person that you've been talking to, you are still required to have an IABS form posted on your website. If you have a separate website from EXP, like you have your own website with a third-party vendor, you need to make sure that that IABS form and the consumer protection link is on that. And
Ron?
go ahead.
Yes, I just clicked on my website and the IABS form does not come up. It is an inactive link.
Okay, are you talking about the conversion website?
Yes.
Okay, so we are working on that right now.
Okay.
There is, and just so that you guys know, we're going to be sending out before the first an email that shows you how to link your IABS form to the to your particular website.
And how about for Facebook? Is there somebody that we can ask how to put it on our Facebook?
There was a post not too long ago that somebody was referring how to do that, and I'll find that and I'll make I'll either post it again on Facebook, but we'll find that because I don't know how to do that. I'm not a
Okay.
Facebook person.
No problem. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so make sure that you have when you post your IABS and when you give an IABS to a prospective client that it's completed. So here's another thing. What is a business website? So any website that is used to attract or conduct real estate brokerage activity, and that includes Facebook or Twitter or any other social media that you're trying to induce a client to use your services, may be considered a website, a business website. So um, now, if you have more than one business website, there's a you need to have a link to the IABS notice on each website. Now, how that's done, specifically referring back to Facebook, I don't know, but we'll try to find that out for you just as soon as we can. Um, if you want to find out about how Trec is speaking towards the IABS, you can go down to trec.gov. They have some very good videos there on Trec. Okay, so
Ron,
yes, ma'am.
quick question. I was just reading I just got an email from Trek about rules and regulation changes, and it said you cannot put it in the footer any longer as well.
You
I
cannot.
don't know if that, yeah, okay.
So, and we addressed this a little earlier. They want that in the body of the email, and they show you and I think there's, like I said before, I think there's an email that refers to that, that references that at Trek. So go on there and look at all those videos.
I'm referencing the websites as well, not in the footer of your website.
Yes, that is in the new rules, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little later. And you're correct; it cannot be in the footer. The IABS and the consumer protection notice cannot be in the footer. Now that's in the new rules that will take place next year. It's not in the current rules that have been passed. Okay, so what is considered advertising? And this is important because you need to know what if the rules are pertaining to advertising, what is advertising? So from Trek's perspective, Rule 535-154 states that for the purposes of this section, an advertisement is something that induces or attempts to induce a member of the public to use the services of the license holder or service provider. And then just to make sure that they know that you are seeing what they want you to see, they said the term advertisement includes, but is not limited to, all publications, radio or television broadcasts, all electronic media, including email, text messages, social networking sites, the internet, business stationery, business cards, signs, and billboards. It is not just signs. So if you have in your email signature, I'm with the, Dunagan team, and you don't have anything in there about EXP, then what we're going to see here later is that advertising may be construed as misleading. And we've already seen what Trek thinks about misleading or misrepresentation in advertising. So here's a yard sign. The brokerage is clearly visible. The agent's name is very visible. That's advertising. Name badges.
Ron, your slides aren't changing. You're still back on ABS.
I'm still where?
Back on that. Notice importance. If you're changing
Okay, so it
the slope.
did not change.
Yeah,
No,
me too. I'm not
no,
getting
sir.
any advances. I thought I was just supposed to follow along mentally.
Okay, so you guys may have to send out, let me hold on just a second, because that's what I was afraid was going to happen, that somebody evidently clicked on that screen and it took my presentation off. Let me see if I can get that back on. And I don't really have, does everybody have the link that I sent out?
No, I'm waiting
I
for you.
do.
Got
Okay.
delayed.
No, I don't.
Okay, so hold on just a second. Let me get that link for you. And
I think Ken Koch just put it up.
okay, good. Okay, so in any event, it will be on the recording. So if you can follow along with just follow along with the link that was provided there, you can go back and it should be on the recording. Okay, so name badges. We're talking about what is considered advertising. Yard signs, name badges, logos. And here's the thing, Trek does not require that the EXP logo be attached to your advertising. What it does prescribe is that the brokerage name be associated with it. What we request, just from a branding perspective, is that you do include the logo and the name on there. So if it says EXP, you'll see in the slides there that these are pretty good. The logos that are shown there are pretty good representations of how you use the EXP logo and name. But what Trek wants is that the public be very, I mean, it's readily apparent to the public who you work for.
Excuse me, Ron, it's still not your link is not connecting. Would you post your link in there? I tried, but it's not working. It's not going for me. Somebody else either.
Okay, so if you would go in, whoever has that link, if you would post it again so Sid can get back in.
I tried to post it, but it's just not when I go to that link, it just sits there and tries to connect. It may be that it's just not working. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Is somebody else in the link and it's working for them?
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
I'm looking at the
You're
individual
on. It's
slides, but the
working
link
fine.
itself is just spinning.
Okay. If somebody would just email that over to Sid, that would be great. And Sid, maybe you can pick it up that way. So here's another thing, and we're talking about the headers and the footers in your email or your correspondence. If you use footers for your emails, they should have the name of the brokerage on there, because that's considered, your email is considered an advertisement. So here's a thing that we run into every day as brokers. Linda will receive an email from one of you agents asking a particular question, and your signature that is at the bottom of that email says thanks, comma, and the name of the agent, and that's it. That's not enough. You need to have on your email more prescribed information than that. If Trek is considering an email advertisement, you need to have the name of the brokerage, at least the name of the brokerage, in with your signature on that email. So business cards, the name of the brokerage again needs to be on there. Again, your email signature. So what is not considered advertising? So we're back to Rule 535 again, Section 154B. The following information is not considered an advertisement or advertising. So when a communication from a license holder to a member of the public, let me just break this down. When your prospective client agrees or signs a buyer's representation agreement or a listing agreement, they are no longer a prospective client. They are your client. And therefore, any communication that you have with that client is not advertising. So the emails that you send them are not advertising. But an email to somebody that you don't have a buyer's agreement with or a listing agreement with would be considered advertising. Do you see the differentiation there? So also under 2, it's not considered advertisement, an advertisement or advertising, if the real estate information, including listings available to the public on the license holder's website, extranet, or similar site, is behind a firewall. So if you have a particular website that a client has to register in, anything behind that firewall is not considered advertising. So listing information, if they want information on a house, if they have to register to get that information, then that is not considered advertising.
So that would then apply to our conversion and sync sites once they've registered, or
Once they
how,
register.
so the general public just browsing conversions, EXP sites, how would they be notified?
So that's
we
why,
can't change the website.
right. So that's why that Trec is prescribing that the information about brokerage services needs to be on the home page of the website or your business website, so that people that are wanting to look at who you are or what is it that you're doing or something like that, they don't have to look inside the beyond the registration. They don't have to register. That information is already on the home page of the website. So they don't have to register to get who you are, the information about who you are and who you work for.
Hey, Ron.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump back, but on that email signature, EXP has a custom Gmail signature website where all we're doing is putting in our name and all that information, our phone numbers. Is that not compatible anymore?
I don't know. Does it say when it comes up? Does it say EXP Realty?
It has the
LLC?
logo. Yeah, it has your name, real estate professional, and then the 4 agents hyperlink to go to your careers website. Your phone number underneath it is the EXP logo.
And it says EXP Realty.
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay,
I'll
yeah, well,
forward
that's good. Whoever gets that email needs to be readily apparent to them what brokerage you work for.
Okay.
Yeah, what brokerage you're associated with. That's the intent here, is to make it very apparent to Joe Public who it is they're dealing with. Okay, so here's the next slide deals with misleading or likely to deceive the public. So in 530, and we're going to see again, this is the rules that exist now. When the new rules take effect next year, 535, the 535.154 is going to be divided. And so one part is going to be the registration of alternate names, DBAs, team names, group names, that sort of thing. And then 535.155 is going to be exclusively towards advertising. So they've split 154 into two areas, and we'll see that in just a minute. And I don't mean to drill down on this. If I get very detailed sometimes, so just pull me out if I get too detailed. But as it stands right now, 535.154 says that advertising that is inaccurate in any material fact may be classified as misleading. So let's say that you have a sign that says Dunagan Team, but it doesn't say EXP Realty on it. So to the consumer, to the buyer that's driving by, it is not EXP that he's looking for. He's looking for Dunagan Team. This guy works with Dunagan Team. That must be the brokerage. And to Trek, that is misleading. So it may not be intentional, but it's misleading nonetheless. So 535 154 goes on to say in section D that for purposes of this section and 1101.652, which is talking about suspension of the license, deceptive or misleading advertising includes, but is not limited to, the following: advertising a property that is subject to an exclusive listing agreement without the permission of the listing broker, and without disclosing the name of the listing broker unless you have an expressly agreed to, in writing, waiver of that disclosure. So you decide that you're going to advertise something on conversion without getting a written authorization from the listing agreement, from the listing agent, listing broker, I should say, on the other, that has that property listed. So you now fall under this rule, section 2 of this rule. So if you're going to advertise somebody else's listing, you need to get it in writing that it's okay to do that. And number two, you need to make sure, one of two things, that listing agent's name is on your advertisement reference to that property, or you get a waiver from him saying that no, you don't have to list my name.
Ron, question.
Sure.
So I've got that agreement with the agent that works for Keller Williams or whoever.
Okay.
That's no longer considered valid. I have to go to get it from the broker.
Well, here's the thing that Trek is trying to make sure of, is that brokerage is rightly represented. I would make sure that you have something in your request that says that you're requesting that, pursuant to this rule, that it's okay for me to advertise your property, and that if you want them to waive, to me, if somebody's going to advertise my listing, I want to be on that listing. So if you want to if you want to ask them, can we waive you being on that advertisement, then you need to have it in writing. But to specifically answer your question, Sid, I think that it should be worded, because if somebody asks me if it's okay to list a property, I'm going to check with my agent. You're going to be stuck getting a response from me. So I would make sure that you talk to the agent, and that the agent is giving the okay for their, and I don't know that you could do this, but and I don't know the answer to that, is what I'm saying.
Well,
I think that if you're going to the listing agent and the listing agent gives you approval to do that, and you've got it in writing, I would do this. Just reference this in saying, we are trying to comply with 535.154D of the Texas Real Estate Commission rules. Is it okay that we list your property? That way you're referencing that rule, and you're asking for permission. Now, if you want to get to the broker and ask him, I think that's always your safe harbor. But I think it would be difficult to do that, especially in a agency that has a ton of agents in it. You may not
agree.
ever get to the broker.
Agree.
Hey, Ron,
Yeah.
quick question. Does that count for EXP agents as well?
Yep.
Do the brokers at EXP not have on file a basic, acceptance or approval for all of their own agents to promote all of their listings? I know in previous brokerages I've worked at, they had a blanket agreement expressed that,
Right.
hey, if you work here at this agency, you can all share each other's listings because at the broker level, they're mine, and I said so.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to take off just to the side a little bit on this. So if I'm the broker, I say, okay, it's great for all of you guys to advertise all of the listings, but you as an agent just take a listing and that seller says specifically, I want only you to advertise my property. Now, how am I going to, as a broker, or how are you as a selling agent now going to take back that authority that's just been given to over 1,000 other agents to advertise that property?
Okay, well, here's my question on that level, though,
Okay.
Ron, is that you being on the broker level, you already hold all the listings, and so you aren't passing it on to, you are advertising it. Your agents that work for you are doing the footwork, but you are technically the person that is doing the advertising and the marketing and holding the listing
But we're doing that for who?
for your client that you have a listing agreement with.
Exactly. And that client has requested what?
That we market their listing. I mean, I went under the impression that when they hired the broker, they're hiring that brokerage
They
to
are hiring
market.
the brokerage. Exactly.
Right.
But here's what I'm saying on that is how do we honor that seller's request that only that listing agent, for whatever reason, requests that only he advertise it? Now understand, you're going to get
Why would
you're
ever
gonna
in the world
expose,
anyone ever request that?
and I don't mean to delve on this too much, but there are reasons that I say get the approval of the listing agent on that, and that's one of them. Yeah, it does. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, so um, deceptive or misleading advertising includes failing to remove an advertisement about a listed property within 10 days after the closing or termination of a listing agreement. 4. An advertisement, it's deceptive or misleading if an advertisement by a salesperson which identifies the salesperson as a broker. So if you identify yourself as Dunagan team and don't have any other information on there, it is reasonable to assume that the person looking at that ad is going to assume that Dunagan team is the brokerage. If there's nothing else there to tell him that, that's what they're assuming.
Ron, I have a quick question then.
Sure.
Are they doing this because Zillow will have old listings still up and they're, you know, they were sold 3 months ago?
Particularly this requirement is what you're asking?
Well, number 3 on slide 27, you had failure to remove an advertisement about a listed property within 10 days after closing.
Right.
Well, Zillow has properties on there
Sure.
6
30
months.
days
Sure.
later.
What I would say on that is that number one, we have control over our MLS listings. We have the control to take that out. And I would say that if you have anywhere where you have the control to remove that listing, it's what they're referring to here.
So are they going to make Zillow and others respond to all these requirements for when they put something in the state of Texas?
I think if you're
Because
going,
they get your name,
yeah,
they get your name and your email, et cetera, just like we do. So
yeah. So what I think on Sid, I think if you're trying to comply with the rules, if you're taking it out of the MLS and you're trying to comply with what you can control, I think that that's what Trek is getting at. If you see that something is problematic on Zillow's end, you can certainly send an email to Zillow and say, please remove this, and then keep that email showing that you tried to get it off, and then just put that in your file.
Are you talking about actually removing the listing from MLS history altogether, or just marking it sold or at the right?
No, they're talking about advertisements about a listed property. And I'm sorry, I may have confused you. We're talking about an advertising, not the actual listing.
Right, but on Zillow, their advertisement is the
Right.
actual listing that's pulled from the MLS. So I guess the ultimate, what he was asking is, you're a Joe consumer, you're on Zillow, and a house at 123 Anyplace Street says it's available, it's for sale, and you find out it's really been sold for 2 months. Great, it happens all day, and they complain about it. But it's from our perspective, is a listing agent responsible for it being on Zillow still?
The listing agent is required at least to try to comply with the rules. Whether Zillow does that or not, you can't go in and actually flip a switch at Zillow, but you can ask that it be removed.
So how do we, as a association and all the realtors in Texas, make Zillow and others comply with all these rules? If
I
we
don't
have to
know that
comply
you,
with them,
yeah,
why?
I don't know that you
We,
can, Sid. And the only reason that I bring this up is that when we go before Trek, these are the rules that Trek is prescribing for us. That these rules, I mean, Zillow and any other third-party vendor is going to try to work with us on that, but we can't, as an agent, go in and flip a switch at Zillow. We
Ron,
don't have any control about that.
Ron, this is Don Robinson. I think one of the confusions is people are assuming Zillow is a brokerage and is governed by Trek. They are not a brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have license. So what goes on Zillow, they are not governed by Trek, and these rules do not apply to them.
Well,
I mean, they're
rules
just
that
a
we're
they're just a
talking about
third
here,
party
Don.
site
Yeah,
saying,
and I see
here's a
where you're
bunch of
coming
homes
from.
available. They're not governed by Trek's rules now because they're not a licensed brokerage. So there's no
Yeah. Well,
Trek has
here's
no
the
power
deal.
over them.
Here's where, Don. Here's where we're going, and we've dug a ditch on this one. So let me kind of get through this, and we'll move on. But if you guys have any other questions on this, please reach out to me and let me, because this is important. So
should be
we're
underneath
talking
that
about
counter in there.
advertisements that a license holder puts out. Trek is requiring that if a license holder puts out an advertisement, they have the ability, in Trek's mind, to take that off. So Trek is saying if you put an advertisement out there, take it off within 10 days after closing. That's what they're saying. They're addressing
Does
this
that
to the
apply to all
license
type of
holder.
advertising,
That
or just internet advertising?
that's referring to all advertisement. It even includes Craigslist. Yeah.
So I have a question regarding any type of advertising, taking it off. So let's say that I posted on Facebook advertising my listing, and after it was sold, whatever it may be, that means I have to go back and delete my post.
That's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that. What I would say to that is what is that, and the question I would have on that is what's the intention behind it? Is it and specifically addressing 535.154 on this, is it deceptive? Is it intentionally trying to be misleading? Are you trying to keep that advertising out there just so that it increases your visibility in the market? If it appears that you're doing that, yeah, it might be considered misleading.
And Ron, I think that might be why the current issue, because but I'm just thinking, I mean, we have agents that are posting all their properties every day by everyone on their team. So they're going to have to remove all of them.
Well, here's the yeah. Uh, if they have control, if they're putting the advertising out there, once that property closes, they need to take that advertising down. If it's something, and I go back to the Facebook post, that's a great question, and I'm going to be asking about that because I don't, like I said, I don't know much about Facebook, but that's something that I don't even know that can a Facebook post be deleted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
By
Yeah.
the original, yeah, the original person who posts it can delete it.
Okay.
I kind of like the idea that was just chat that we just go back and edit that post and put sold.
Okay. Um,
Okay, Ron, I
Does,
have a
but
does
question.
marking it still work?
here's the deal on that though. It doesn't say edited in number 3. It says removed.
So how do you market your sold listings?
Yeah, because those are not removed off MLS, Ron. When you flag them as sold, they're still in MLS. So I would have thought if you did something,
I think that that's on MLS though. I mean, and again, I'm going to have to check in on that. Guys,
I do
this
have a
is
question though,
go ahead.
because
Okay, now let me
I'm
have this
sorry.
because we've got tons of stuff left, but let me make this the last question on this, okay?
Thank you, Ron. Okay, so if it is marked sold on MLS, it's still pulled onto our conversion site. So technically, I mean, I think it would still be out there. So I think that that's a really good question as well as how we mark it sold and if it's removed. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, I think the intention here by Trek is someone that is intentionally leaving advertising out there just so that they can get more exposure. And the reasoning behind that is, and I'll do some more research on this. This is stuff that we're going to have to explore for what, especially the stuff that's pending. Trek has not got into the specifics of it yet. This is just to get that out there so that you're aware of it. So I'm not trying to make any stuff that's going to be required just yet on some of this. Let's just and I'll take these questions that I don't know and I'll do a little bit more research on it if that's fair. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Number 5, advertising a property in a manner that creates a reasonable likelihood of confusion regarding the permitted use of the property. And how to avoid creating a misleading impression. An advertisement must clearly and conspicuously contain the name of the broker. We've talked about that. If you do nothing else from this class, if you get that point that everything, all of your advertising needs to have EXP on it, all of it. If you get that, then you've got about 80% of this class. So, and what they're saying in this is it must be clearly and conspicuously contained in the advertisement. Well, what does that mean? Let me address this first, and then we'll talk about how it's conspicuous. A broker or salesperson may not place an advertisement that in any way implies that the salesperson is responsible for the operation or real estate of the brokerage, or that causes the member of the public to believe that a person is not authorized to conduct real estate brokerage. If you don't have the name of EXP on your advertising, then people are assuming that whoever you are there, if it says Dunagan team, that's the brokerage. So you may be, if I wasn't the broker and I was just advertising Dunagan team, they may assume that I was in charge of the brokerage. So anything that says agent owner, and this is a big thing under the new um, under the new rules. If it says agent owner, if it says CEO, let's say that I was CEO of Dunagan team. If it says that I'm the president of Dunagan team, then it falls back under this how to don't say that you're the and we've already got a ruling the from Trec saying that agent owner may be problematic. So we're working on that now. So if you're considering making new signage, do not put agent owner on your new signage. I would if it says CEO or president in your email signature, take it off. And I think that that will uh, get you farther down the road on how to avoid creating um, a misleading impression. Um, okay, so now we're getting into the proposed Trec changes. And these are, like I said before, they're going to be 535.154 advertising is going to be totally rewritten to divide up into two sections. Jacqueline, yes, we are going to be putting this out onto Facebook, and we're going to be putting this out as a Texas memo several times before these rules actually take effect. But it's going to be divided into registration and use of alternate team and assumed business names used in advertisements and advertisements. If you're going to use an assumed name, an alternate name, I had a question this morning saying, um, and I'm forgetting the name, but you know, my name is Fred, but I go by Bob. You know, how do I get it to where I can advertise under Bob? You need to file a alternate name form at Trek. So they have forms there. You can tell Trek, you know. Now this is not for the person that is named, let's say Ronald, and I want to advertise Ron. That's everybody kind of assumes that it's a derivative of a name. So that's fine. You don't need any kind of certificate for that. But it is if your first name is different than what your proposed advertising is. If you want to advertise under Bob but your real name is Fred, yeah, you need to tell Trek who you are, because they're looking for Bob. And if they can't find Bob, that could be problematic. It has to be on a form that's approved by Trek. Here's the new thing that we're getting. If you have a team, it needs to end with the word team or group under the new rules. Must end. I don't know. It's one of the Trek rules. So, and this is under the new guidelines under 154. And it's proposed. That's right. It's a good bet that it's going to be passed, though. What Trek is trying to get away from is that those teams or groups out there that are like, I don't know what you would call it. Let's just say Fred's Properties or something like that. They want it to be very apparent to the public that if it says team or group, these are people that are under a brokerage. So if yeah, so that's a good. Jacqueline asked, so it would have to be whatever the name is, group or let's say um, the fantastic team or the fantastic group is complying with this rule. Now, but if they said Fantastic Properties LLC, that gives the could, doesn't mean that it does, but it could give the impression to somebody in the public that that is the brokerage. And that's what we're talking about, is misrepresentation, getting away from that. And guys, again, I can't, the text chat, if you can just verbalize your questions, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so the team name, if you're a team or a group, it must end with team or group. Must be on a form that's approved by Trec, and you have to notify the commission 10 days after you stop using the name. It's the same with the alternate names. So if you're wanting to use an assumed name, let's say that I was just starting the business and I wanted to be called the Dunagan team, I would need to file what's called an assumed name certificate with or a DBA with Trec, and I should be able to tell you what the form number is, but I can't right now. But these forms are at Trec, and if you want to file, or if you have somebody that does want to file a DBA, like I wanted to start a team, or I wanted to start a group, or I wanted to be named, or I wanted to use something in that regard, let's put it that way. Then the first thing I need to do is go down to the county and register it at the county. Get a DBA certificate from the county so that they understand that it's registered, or register it with the state. And then you send that along with your request to either Sheila or Linda, and then they will it's the broker that has to file that one. But that's what.
So,
go ahead.
excuse me. So Ron, even though I have registered my name initially, it is going to get changed and now I have to redo it all?
Yep. And
at all levels.
At all levels. And that's why Trek is giving us so much time on this, because they realize that this is going to cost some agents some money, and that it's going to affect a lot of agents. And so they're trying to give enough leeway so that that cost can be minimized, and that the time required to make that change can be minimized.
But it still costs.
It still costs.
It still costs, and they keep changing.
And you've got to change all your LLCs and everything else.
Well, and here's what I would suggest on that. Well, yeah, I agree with you. And Sid, if you want to get with me later, I'll talk to you about that. So advertisements. This is the new section 535.155, advertisements. When they're talking about the broker's name that needs to be associated with every advertisement, that broker's name needs to be half the size of the largest contact information. So what does contact information mean? Contact information can include the name, the phone number, the email address, the website address, social media handle, scan code. So if you have, let's say that you have an email address that's in 10 font or 14 font, but you have a name that's in 24 font, they take the largest contact information, the broker name needs to be at least half the size of the largest contact information. So this idea about putting EXP in font size 5 that's on the bottom of the sign, they're essentially that's where this is directed. They want it apparent, readily apparent to the public going in.
So there goes the whole EXP perk of being able to brand yourself the way you want to and be whoever you want to be.
No, that what we're saying is that EXP has always said you can brand yourself how you want, but it needs to be Trec compliant. So we're not going to tell you that you have to have a balloon on your signs. And I'm not picking on any particular brokerage. I'm just saying we're not prescribing that your signs look the same. We're just saying that your signs need to comply with Trec's requirements.
Okay, Ron?
Yeah.
So if our signs say our company, like my company sign is By God's Grace Realty, and I have the EXP rider, are you saying that my sign itself now needs to be EXP?
So here's where and I apologize for being picky, but my mind just it goes this way. So if you have good little Charlie who's a 10-year-old in the neighborhood and comes by and steals your rider, what happens? And I know I'm being picky, and I know it's an absurd illustration, but like I said, I just go that way. But I think you're seeing where I'm going there. It probably should be on the signage itself.
Ron, I mean, the signs were supposed to be approved by marketing anyway, so
this doesn't have anything to do with EXP. These are new Trec rules that have come down, and our marketing department has nothing to say about this.
But when we were going through the marketing group, we had to have EXP on our signs anyway, I guess is where I was going.
Right.
So I'm not sure why it would be an issue not having EXP on the sign. It's more about the size now of what that EXP needs to be. And are you guys going to put some reviews on that, or are you just going to leave as long as the agents do it? Because who gets the Trec fine? You, the brokerage, or the agent, or both? Okay, so it's incumbent on you guys to also, I guess, clearly articulate this, because I can tell you right now, I know of a bunch of signs that are also being created at the moment that this is going to be a problem for.
That's why we're having this class.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate it, Ron. And that's why I'm getting it out on the Facebook Texas group as soon as possible. So if people are producing any more signs, they put a halt on it, because this has been approved, correct? This is different to the team and group. This one's approved.
No. These are pending. These are pending rules.
So maybe a warning that says, hey, before you do any more signs, if you can hold off, it may be worth it till we see if these rules come in.
Right.
Okay.
So then are you saying that the actual sign has to have both EXP and the name of our brokerage on the sign? Riders are no longer effective? Because I've been in compliance for years and never had a problem until right now.
Well, again, what I'm saying is, as long the rider being there is fine, as long as that rider is there. What I'm saying is, if that rider accidentally or on purpose gets taken off, then you're no longer in compliance. And why take that chance? So anyway, let me just kind of move on. And again, these are pending rules, and if you have any, and they're not going to take place until probably, I would say, March, April, May of next year.
Any chance that we can fight these pending rules?
Talk to TAR. Talk to, that's what the Texas Association of Realtors is for. I mean, if you have some objections to them, talk to your committee people at, your local association, and have them take it up to, to the state level.
I guess I'm still a little bit confused. Can we use the logo for the brokerage name, or do you need to spell out EXP Realty LLC? Because none of our logos have LLC on them. So I
Okay,
mean,
so that's a
I'm a
good
little
question.
confused still.
Yeah, that's a good question, and we're going to be addressing that. So that's another thing that we've brought up to Trec, and Trek Legal has said that we probably need to file EXP Realty as an alternate name for EXP Realty LLC, since that's our license name, and we are in the process of doing that.
Well, I got a listing that I got last night. I need to have a sign made because I'm having signs made as I get listings. Now I'm confused of whether I go spend $100 to go have a sign made or whatever, and then it might not be in compliance. I just want my signs to be in compliance and do a one-time shop. So I needed to be very clear on what I can put on there before I go and have one made. These signs are very, very costly, and they're a lot cheaper if you buy more than one.
Yeah, I get you. So I would say that, and we should be filing that here pretty soon. If it's not going to be this week, it'll probably be early next week. So I would say that you're probably fine to put your sign up.
Well, if I get it and then I have to change it, that costs me money. Now, why not redesign the logo to just put LLC on there on our logos? That would make a sense to me, and would be covered both ways.
Yeah, I can.
If the LLC said that, I mean, it's easy for an artist to go in there and put
Yeah,
LLC.
but guys, that means all of us that already don't have LLC, we would have to redo all our signs. I mean, EXP Realty should be a DBA just the same way as Knight Property Team is. And I think for a lot of us who are single agents, I know on my sign, I use the standard one. So the EXP, I think, is in compliance anyway. It sounds like where people are branding, that's the bigger challenge for them, because it typically does say powered by EXP in the smallest size.
So, and just so that everyone knows, if your sign says EXP Realty on it, after we get the alternate name form sent into Trek, you will be in compliance. If your sign says EXP Realty with the logo, it'll be in compliance.
Yeah, I just like my signs to be real simple and sweet. Just the logo, my name, my contact information, bam, that's it. And I know about the size. That's always been. It had to be. Couldn't be. The logo has to be half the size of your contact. But I'm proud of EXP, so I like my logo to be large anyway. So it's insignificant. Just so long as they can read my name is all I care.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just keep going on, and I definitely appreciate the questions. So thank you very much for that. Pardon me. On the proposed on 155D, an advertisement that misleads or is likely to deceive the public tends to create a misleading impression or implies that a sales agent is responsible for the operation of a broker's real estate brokerage business, includes but is not limited to any advertisement. Okay, now there's a long laundry list of things in here, and I've just to save your time, let's look at number 4. Is not any advertisement that uses a title such as owner, president, CEO, COO, or similar title, email, or website address that implies that a license holder is responsible for the operations of a brokerage. We've already gone over this. Don't use those titles and you'll be fine. Number 5. Any advertisement that contains a team name with terms that imply that the team is offering brokerage services independent from its sponsoring broker. Here's some other verbiage that Trek is wanting to get away from, including but not limited to realty. If you have a name that says Dunagan Realty on it, they're going to ask you to change that. If it says
That is so stupid. I mean, we are realtors. We pay for that, that title. We became real estate agents to sell real estate. We are in realty. So now I can't tell the general public what I do in my own business now. That is just the stupidest thing I have ever heard.
Yep.
Amen.
Heard,
Preach to the choir.
well, I heard that if, or I checked on the advertising rules, and I got a hand from MLS, and they sent me a handout, but they said that realty was okay to use if it was I'm an individual using it. I'm an associate broker, and that it wouldn't be a problem if I didn't have other people underneath me as part of the group or team, something like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, Trek has not come down with specifics on these yet. These are just the rules that have come out. So we don't know. They have not come out said, this is where we're thinking on this. This is just the rule itself. So, and I'm just trying to give you guys some heads up on this so that you have time. If any of these rules apply to you, you can adjust your business to comply with them. So, company and associates are two other words that are involved in that. So let's skip down to 12. That implies the person making the advertisement was involved in a transaction regarding property when the person had no such role. Number 13, about a property that is subject to an exclusive listing agreement, again, without the permission of the listing broker. And I think we've covered that under the existing rules. Okay, I think that's it. Now,
hey Ron,
questions.
quick question on the sign of advertising, the one that talks about potentially not looking like you're not actually licensed. So signs, those signs that are done that are handwritten in the neighborhood saying, call us if you want us to list your home. We buy ugly houses, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Would that count? Because
that's always been out. Those are called bandit signs, and they're illegal on many levels. Yeah. But typically, the people that are putting them out are not real estate agents; they're real estate investors.
Right.
No, I can tell you, there's a bunch of real estate licensed agents doing it in Houston. So that's why I'm just asking the question.
Because they're wholesalers; they're not supposed to.
Okay. So that for a licensed agent, that's not that's what I wanted to clarify. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So, and like I said, that's, on a lot of this stuff, Trek's going to come down later, and as people ask questions, they're going to get specific on some of these rules. If you have questions on these rules, let me give you an email, and I don't have this in the, if you have a specific question that you would like to ask Trek, you can, let me give you the email address. It is info@trek.gov. And I think that's it. Let me make sure. Let's see. Well, anyway, I'll post that out. If you have questions that you want to address to Trek, you can send it to that email address, and they will get back to you. Okay, so any other questions before we stop?
Yeah, Ron, this is Guy McKinney. I have a quick
Hey,
question.
Guy.
So hello. So it's my understanding that these are all still proposed. Chances are they will go through, but they are not final yet.
Yeah, when we're talking about the new rules under 154 and 155, those are still
Hmm.
pending.
Okay.
But the ones that are taking in effect regarding the IABS, those take
Hmm.
effect next month.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Thanks. I've already moved past IABS and accepted. I wasn't even thinking about it, but thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So now on the advertising, so it's probably incumbent upon us to just kind of wait and see how it flushes out. Think about if these rules do solidify and are passed, then how are we going to address them? But not to go spend too much money doing it yet. Just let's make sure it gets cast in stone.
Sure, and I think that would be prudent.
The other question, so here's an example. So my wife and I are husband-wife team. We've branded ourselves. We used to call ourselves Triple Crown Realty. We've taken off Realty. Now it's EXP Realty. Doesn't matter if it has LLC or not. I get the size thing. It's my understanding that if these rules go through, we are also going to have to add group or team to the end of Triple Crown. We can't just have the name with nothing.
Uh, if you are, yeah, that's a good question. If you are considered a team or a group, um, now wait a minute, it's just you and your wife, right?
Correct.
Um, that's a good question because I'm not sure if a familial partnership is included in that. That's something that we can ask about.
Yeah, well,
But
don't.
Ron, I thought you said team or group has to apply. I'm not sure the fact it's a husband and wife team, why would that make a difference on a physical sign?
Because, well, here's and like I said before, Jacqueline, I don't know the answer to that, so I'm just speculating.
My answer is because I don't want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a team right now, and it's a mom and two kids, and I don't think they have team or group. And I'm just thinking, like, with if it's a husband and wife, we have another one. Because I thought the whole point was how it's advertised. As soon as it's not your own individual name, which it wouldn't be in a husband and wife scenario, then we're back to the same issue again.
Yeah. So my answer to that is I'm going to punt and I'm going to check it out.
Sure.
And let me give you a concise answer next time rather than me stutter and sputter up here.
Understood. And ask it in a way that the answer is what I want it to be. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I understand.
It kind of makes sense if you got more than one licensed person, and then you do actually have a team, especially if they're different, they're not related. But I'm hoping that they give us the option if we're someone else, as long as they have a license. The other question would be, let's suppose I'm company ABC, but I do have someone else working for me, but they're not licensed. They're more administrative or contract to close or something. You're a team, but does that come into play? Because I'm thinking ahead, if Joy and I add someone that is not licensed but helping us out, does that suddenly make us a team or group? So hopefully they'll be reasonable with all that. But
yeah, there are definitions of team in the rules, but I don't know
okay.
that I don't remember if that applies to that definition or not. I'll have to look at it.
It's a loophole. Maybe we ought to just let it lay, and it's a loophole.
Yeah.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks. I was
Okay.
just kind of curious.
Hey, Ron, I got a quick question.
Sure.
What is the penalty of the disciplinary action if you say if your fine is you kind of think is compliant and it's not? What is the fine for that, or what happens? Does Trek even give you a warning before they really, like a 10-day, correct it in 10 days or else or something like that? I mean, I've never faced anything like that. Just kind of curious.
Right. In the rules that we've just gone over, um, there's no penalty information given on that, and I think that that's up to Trek. depending on what they feel the severity of it is. I think that that would go under the same kind of, if somebody files a complaint on the signage, or if Trek themselves has an investigator that's driving around and sees the signage or advertising. It depends on how. It just depends on the perception of the the person that's investigating that feels that it is. If they think it's pretty severe, then you might be facing a pretty severe penalty.
You may have been going down the path of healthcare. Might be cheaper just to pay the penalty.
That's what I'm thinking. If you have a bunch of signs, it may, they fine you a couple $100 or just give you a warning. May not do that. I mean, for instance, one side of my sign says powered. I sent it to you. It says powered by EXP. The other side says agent agent on brokerage. I have that logo. So I had them both put on there. I've already had the sign made, and so I'm going to use it till March. I don't see any until they really come across, and then if we're going to find me $100, it may, or just give me a warning. Then I might take it down at that point. I think I am in compliance as far as the great big logo. My name's reasonable size, things like that. So it's not I'm not flagrant in misadvertising. I think most people's going to say, hey, he works for EXP. So I think that's the way I'd kind of like to handle it, but I want to just make sure.
Yeah, and again, I think that it goes back to intentions. What are the intentions of the agent that is doing the advertising? And I apologize, I'm getting a little hoarse here, but I think it goes back to that. But intentions are still the agent's still required to be in compliance. Intention comes in, I think, when they're considering a penalty, or if a penalty is to be assessed. I'm speculating on that.
Ron,
Yes.
is powered by the only connecting words we can use? Can we not use partners with EXP Realty LLC?
No. No, you don't. It doesn't have to say powered by. It has to.
Okay.
The rules are prescribed that says that you have to mention the name of your brokerage on there. So it does not have to say powered by.
So would partners with EXP LLC be acceptable?
That you're now getting towards branding from the company, and I would think if you're going to want to put that on there, you need to check with marketing.
I need to check with who?
With EXP's marketing.
Oh, okay.
I've heard you can't do that, but definitely check.
Yeah, it was approved for me with KW, so I'll check with marketing.
Yeah, please.
Hey, what if I legally went and changed my last name to Real?
Well, I have seen stranger things.
Would it be a compliant then that I could actually be the Johnston Realty Group at that point? Would Trek still be able to come down on me?
Since we're recording this, I'm not going to go there.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate
We can
your
all
honesty.
be family. We can all be family. We'll all change our last names.
Yes, the real EXP family.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm going to stop the recording now. And thank you guys for being here. And we will definitely have more information to come.